Hey everyone, and welcome. Let's get right into our daily news summary for November 13th, breaking down everything you need for your UPSC prep. So, what's on the docket today? We're starting with a big update on national security. Then, we'll jump into some really crucial moves in governance. After that, we'll cover the latest on the economy and environment. And we'll wrap it all up by taking a look at the big picture with competitive federalism. Let's get started. All right, first up, we're diving straight into a major internal security issue. We're tracking the investigation into that blast near the Red Fort in Delhi, and things are moving fast.
So the story here is that this probe is getting bigger and bigger. What started as one thing has now pulled in multiple agencies, and they're uncovering this really complex network that they're trying to piece together right now.
Okay, let's get into the nitty-gritty. The prime suspect, a Dr. Nabi, apparently used something called a teleselector. Now, what's that? Well, think of it as a specialized gadget designed to fly under the radar and bypass normal surveillance. That alone tells you we're talking about a pretty sophisticated operation. Plus, we've got arrests of his colleagues, and there's this international angle with a past trip to Turkey being looked at very closely for possible links to Jaish-e-Mohammed.
Now this is where it gets really telling. The car they used? It was a red Ford EcoSport, and get this? It was bought using a fake address, specifically the address of a madrasa. This just screams that there's a serious vulnerability in our system for vehicle registration, showing how easily bad actors can get their hands on what they need using fraudulent info.
And speaking of that international angle, with all the scrutiny on the suspect's travel, Turkey came out with a strong statement condemning terrorism. You know, it's the kind of diplomatic response you'd expect, but it really highlights just how crucial global cooperation is when you're trying to shut down these terror networks and their funding.
All right, let's switch gears and talk about institutions and governance. We're going to look at how some of our key institutions are making moves that affect accountability and public policy. All super important stuff for GS Paper 2.
Wow, that's a pretty direct statement, right? The Supreme Court is not mincing words here. They're tackling the problem of delayed verdicts head-on, basically saying that transparency in our courts isn't a luxury, it's something the public has a right to expect.
And it's not just talk, there's real action behind it. The court has ordered every high court to put up a public dashboard. This isn't just a suggestion, it's a command to create a system where anyone can see how long it's taking for judgments to be delivered. This is judicial reform in action, plain and simple.
Okay, get a load of this number, 13 lakh. Let that sink in for a second. That's how massive this data-driven cleanup is that's about to happen in West Bengal.
So how are they doing this? Well, it all comes down to connecting the dots with Aadhaar data. When someone passes away, UIDAI deactivates their Aadhaar number. Now the Election Commission is using that very data to scrub the voter rolls clean. This is a huge deal for electoral reform, using tech to make our voter lists way more accurate.
Okay, now here's a change that might seem small on the surface, but trust me, it's a big deal. SEBI, the big market watchdog, wants to tighten the rules on conflict of interest. They're proposing to make the definition of family much broader. It's not just your spouse and kids anymore, it's anyone who is substantially dependent on you. Why? It's all about casting a wider net to stop potential insider trading before it even starts.
Okay, shifting gears again, let's talk economy and environment. We've got a major economic headline, plus two really important stories, one from the National Green Tribunal and another from a new scientific study.
0.25%. That's the number grabbing all the headlines. India's retail inflation has absolutely tanked to a record low, the lowest we've seen since this data series started way back in 2012.
But, and this is a big but for your exams, you have to understand why. It's not as straightforward as it looks. It's mostly because of something called the base effect. See, food inflation last year was sky high. So compared to that really high starting point, even moderate prices this year look like a massive drop. Knowing this little statistical trick is crucial to really understand what the data is telling you.
Now, these numbers are, well, they're shocking. A health survey found that in Kanpur Nagar, more than 95% of the people tested had chromium levels way above the safe limit. This is a direct result of industrial pollution, and because of this, the National Green Tribunal has stepped in and basically said, enough is enough, ordering the UP government to find everyone affected and take action immediately.
And this is a really important study from the journal Nature. It puts a real number on the deadly impact of climate change. Researchers found that during Mumbai's monsoon season, a staggering 8% of all deaths were excess deaths caused directly by extreme rainfall. We're talking about 2,500 people a year. To put that into perspective, that's roughly the same number of people who die from all cancers combined in the city. Just think about that.
Okay, for our last topic today, let's pull back and look at the big picture. There's a major trend shaping India's entire political economy, and it's called competitive federalism.
So, what exactly is competitive federalism? Think of it this way. The game has changed. It's not about chief ministers going to Delhi with a begging bowl anymore, hoping for funds. Now, it's about those same chief ministers flying to global boardrooms, putting on their best sales pitch, and trying to convince big companies that their state is the best place in the world to invest. The competition is now state versus state.
And this isn't just a theory, right? We're seeing this play out in real time. Look at Andhra Pradesh landing a massive Google data center, or Gujarat fighting tooth and nail to get that huge Vedanta Foxconn chip plant. And you've got Tamil Nadu and Telangana in a fierce race to become India's top electric vehicle hub. These are high-stakes battles for jobs and for the future.
So the core idea here, and it's a powerful one, is that this isn't a zero-sum game. The argument is that when a state like Gujarat wins a semiconductor plant, it's not just a win for Gujarat. It helps build up our national supply chains, it creates a highly skilled workforce, and it makes India's entire industrial base stronger. When one state wins, we all kind of win.
So that leaves us with the big question, the one you really need to chew on for your mains paper. This competition is great, but how do you manage it? How do we make sure this rivalry between states actually leads to fair, balanced growth across the entire country and doesn't just turn into a race to the bottom, where states start cutting corners on things like labor rights or environmental rules just to attract a factory? That's the crucial dilemma to think about.